Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to have a look at a video made by a YouTuber called Super Princess Tea Party. The video is titled, Why Not Egalitarianism? In this video she explains why, as a feminist, she does not believe that egalitarianism has any value. The reason I'm responding to this particular video is because in this video she presents a typical feminist position in relation to egalitarianism itself. This position I believe to be quite revealing. So let's take a look at the video and listen to what Super Princess Tea Party has to say on the subject.
When was the last time you saw an egalitarian advocating really for anyone's rights in the name of egalitarianism? I've never seen it, ever. I've only seen people who consider themselves egalitarians sort of opposing other movements.
This state of affairs, apparently, is a complete mystery to you. Sadly, I really think you're being genuine here. You really don't know why this might be the way of things, which means you don't really have an understanding of the topic. You don't seem to apprehend the nature of egalitarianism itself. Otherwise, you would know why it is silly even to ask this question. There are 2 points you need to be mindful of. The first is, the reason you don't see anyone advocating women's rights from an egalitarian position is quite trivial to explain. If they did advocate for women's rights specifically, then you could hardly describe their position as being egalitarian, could you? Such a position is antithetical to egalitarianism. The other more general point I'd like to make is that you don't see people advocating for egalitarianism itself in the West. This is because our societies are actually founded on egalitarian principles. We live in societies where egalitarianism is so well embedded you don't even give it a second thought. Let's put it another way. When was the last time you witnessed a Democrat advocating for the introduction of democracy in the West? Well, you don't, do you? Because the West is democratic. Democracy is embedded in our institutions and societies. What you will notice, however, is resistance to undemocratic political ideologies. People will tend to challenge those who oppose the democratic process, rather than actively advocate for its introduction. The reason for this is that, at least for most of us, democracy is the default ideological position. It is the established norm in Western societies, and that, princess, holds for egalitarianism. The reason you don't see people agitating for egalitarian change is for the very simple reason that the West, in all its glorious imperfection, is a culture founded in the tradition of English liberty and egalitarianism. In short, you live in a democratic society, princess, based on an egalitarian ethos, and it appears that this has totally escaped your attention for some inexplicable reason.
I have seen on this channel, not so much, but definitely throughout my life, people who consider themselves egalitarians spending most of their time just telling other people to shut the fuck up about whatever specific focus they had. If they were trying to work for people with disabilities or women or black people, Native Americans, whatever, they're like, if you're not going to talk about everyone, you can't talk about them. You can't talk, period. Shut the fuck up about your specific focus if you're not going to talk about everyone, because it's not fair.
These are not difficult concepts, princess. You have to try and grasp at least the basic principles on which our societies function before advocating for radical societal change, which seems to be your inclination. The fact you miss the obvious, though, is somewhat baffling. These egalitarians that take issue and argue against some group or cause being unfairly privileged would be right when they point out that fairness is essential for a peaceful and a just society. Egalitarianism is the philosophy that holds that it is people who have natural rights, and that such rights should be enjoyed equally by everyone. Therefore, the privileging of particular groups or individuals simply because of some trait or characteristic is fundamentally unfair and leads to an inequitable society. So let's try to understand where these egalitarians are coming from. They hold the belief that all people are equal and should enjoy equal rights. Now, I'm sure they would have no issue in offering vulnerable groups certain protections in law, but they would be far less inclined to privilege those groups with additional rights, because they would believe that in so doing you are inevitably introducing inequality in society. If we think about it logically, if you endow Group A with rights not available to Group B, the one thing you cannot claim is that both groups enjoy equal rights. Therefore, you have introduced inequality, and that really wouldn't be fair, would it, Princess, regardless of intent?
And I have never seen there doesn't appear to be an egalitarian movement. There doesn't appear to be any sort of egalitarian advocacy. They don't appear to be at all political or concerned about who's doing regional politics, who's getting into Congress, there doesn't seem to be an egalitarian movement towards like choosing a president or helping, get rid of old, outdated laws or bringing in more progressive laws. Nothing.
This really is a fundamental misapprehension, Princess. So let's review Politics 101. The Constitution of the United States of America is a document that expresses egalitarianism in written form. The Constitution itself uses within its text the term person and expressions such as "we the people" when detailing fundamental rights and responsibilities. This form of language, used by the Founding Fathers, is derived directly from egalitarian philosophy. When such terms are used at this particular point in history, think egalitarianism. When they express the idea that such things are self-evident, think rationalism. So your nation, its institutions, and without doubt its very constitution, is based almost entirely on the philosophical positions of rationalism and egalitarianism. And you, Princess, appear to wonder where on earth such an ideology could possibly be found. Indeed, you seem to wonder whether it has any practical application at all. Incredible.
It's like a total wussy political stance that keeps, it sort of blocks you from criticism. That's what I see. Is like, as long as you care about everyone's rights, then no one can be mad at you. No one can accuse you of anything. It's such a sissy crap catch-all phrase, egalitarianism, and it means nothing. It's so hollow to me.
Might be an idea, Princess, to play that last part back to yourself and listen very carefully to what you actually say. Do you really think that caring about everyone's rights, rather than a particular group, is a position that simply has no value, or is a vacuous or hollow position to take? Is that what you really think, Princess? Or is it simply you did not think about what you were saying?
I don't understand why you can't be a feminist and a men's rights activist. If you care about women's rights, why can't you care about men's rights? Men are people. There are certainly definitely places where they have conflicts and they disagree, but both are important. Okay.
Well, it seems to me you've identified correctly why it's difficult, if not impossible, to advocate effectively for both men's and women's rights simultaneously. There is an obvious conflict of interest. It would be wise to avoid such dissonance. If you truly care about the welfare of each group, perhaps a radical philosophical position that one could adopt, one that just might allow you to reach an equitable solution to this apparent conflict of interest, is egalitarianism. Why not just say that people, regardless of sex, should enjoy equal rights and responsibilities? Why not just advocate for rights, rather than confine your advocacy to a specific group or groups which you may or may not identify with on a personal level?
I've never seen men's rights activists do anything except oppose and harass feminists. And that's a perspective thing. That's the only thing I've seen.
Well, we pause here, Princess, because that's simply a dishonest statement to make, isn't it? It matters little how you attempt to frame that assertion, Unless, of course, you can point to a situation where MRAs have attempted to harass or close down feminist debates or meetings, because rest assured, I have a lengthy list at hand where the opposite reality is the case.
Means nothing and helps no one. So until there is because the thing is that if you had an egalitarian movement, you would be forced to separate things out. You'd have to have all of these different branches of egalitarians within that subcategory women, subcategory elderly people, subcategory men, subcategory disabled.
You seem unable to escape the collectivist mindset, Princess. Is it really necessary to assume that human beings can or should be classified, then labelled like insects? That whole blocks of humanity should be grouped by the millions, tens of millions, which we then confidently give some arbitrary label, like male, female, black, white, able-bodied, disabled, gay, lesbian. Are you truly unable to view humanity as a unique entity in its own right, which is composed of individual and unique members? Individuals who should enjoy equal rights and consideration, regardless of any defining characteristic or trait? Or should we simply keep dividing humanity into ever smaller, self-interested subgroups, so that each can compete for advantage against the other and pursue self-interest over other differently labelled groups? How would we even begin to build a fair and equitable society using such an ideology? So we end our adventure here. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening. See you next time.